Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Jermaine Beckford is in the house, and Mina Razuki for the first time on Team Talks, making your debut tonight. So let's start with you. The match we just saw, it literally gave us everything. It lived up to the hype. Manchester City, Arsenal, 4 goals, a red card, so much drama after. It's been dominating the headlines all week.
Yes, all these conversations on the dark arts. I mean, coming from someone who covers the Italian league, you don't know what dark arts are unless you come to Italy. I mean, there's everything from eating garlic to put off your opponent to bringing on a player just so that you can get 6 fouls in 2 minutes. These are the kind of things that we're used to in Italy. And over here, we're talking about really quite simple stuff, to be honest with you.
I'm loving that, eating garlic to put off opponents.
That's a
incredible.
famous thing with Leonardo Bonucci.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And you remember what Giorgio Chiellini did to Saka? I mean, if, you know, we're talking about Arsenal, like, how did they like it when that happened to them at the time in the England final against Italy? And that was horrendous. Yep. Now, that's dark arts.
What did you think about it, especially after? Because we saw that clip of Haaland famously telling Arteta to be humble.
I loved it. Genuinely, I loved it. So football at the moment has become really nice and a bit too friendly. And, oh, I don't want to upset them.
Vanilla.
Vanilla. Listen, it's a competition. That's what it's about. It's about my team beating your team. It's about us finding a way to get one over on the opposition. And if it has to be a little bit of the dark arts, a little bit of, I'm going to have to trip this guy up, or I'm going to have to pull on his shirt a little bit when the referee's not looking, that's what you want to do. You know, that moment there, Haaland, when he picks the ball up, throws the ball in Gabriel's head, again, Thomas Partey blocks Haaland off. Haaland gets in his face. Come on, this is competition. This is the Premier League. This is 2 teams that are going for the Premier League title. They're challenging each other. They know they are the biggest opposition to each other.
Yeah.
And Arsenal were down to 10 men. Unbelievable game. They played really, really well. Every single one of those players should be immensely proud of themselves, especially Mikel Arteta should be immensely proud of his team because of what they were able to do against, in my opinion, the best footballing team in the world. They managed to keep them at bay for 47, 48 minutes, give or take, maybe a little bit longer, incidentally. I love it. I buzz off that.
But why has it become so polite? Why aren't we allowed to have this kind of level of, you know, intensity and anger? And isn't this what makes it a show, which is why we love watching the Premier League? And also to do that, you know, in 10 men without, you know, and they didn't have Rodri, though, to be honest with you, so that maybe simplified things.
Arsenal were down to 10 men.
So dark arts kind of just, it gets me. I think it was Kyle Walker who said it, and I'm like, so what? Now Arteta's office is going to be called the Chamber of Secrets? What's going on?
Exactly.
And this is the counter-argument to that is Manchester City have been doing that since Pep Guardiola stepped in.
Yeah.
No, prior to that, actually. So it's not like it's new to Manchester City. They're just frustrated that they're on the opposite end of it. That's all.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that encounter. But we are going to move on to Arsenal, who host winless Leicester at the Emirates Stadium. Mikel Arteta has reacted to criticism about his side playing ultra defensively against Man City last weekend.
Us on our toes today, Mikel.
Sorry?
Forward, keeping us on our toes today.
Okay, go on.
We'll be ready, don't you worry. Shall we start with good old injury news? Where are you at, first of all, with David Raya? What are his chances of making the game?
We have to wait another 24 hours.
Is it not looking good?
We have to wait 24 hours to see if he's looking good or not that good.
Okay. I guess with PSG, not worth taking the risk.
It's not risk, it's about a player being fit and available or not. And when we have that clarity for Leicester, which is the main thing that we are thinking at the moment, is we'll make the decision tomorrow.
White and Timber, where are they?
Yeah, Julian was able to take part in training today, so that's good news. So he will be available in the squad.
And Ben?
And Ben hopefully as well.
And can you just let us know a little bit on the progress of Mikel Merino as well? I mean, I'm guessing this week is too soon for him, but how is he progressing? Tomorrow is too soon. The next week we will see. He had partial training today. He's been working so hard, and it's looking good. It's just about the healing of that bone and how mature that is to expose him to contact, basically. I know you spoke about this on Tuesday, and I know it's 5 days, but a lot of people are still talking about Sunday's game. After the game on Wednesday, Pep came out and said that you two texted and that there was no damage to your relationship after what happened on Sunday. I wondered how you are still able to remain such good friends with somebody that ultimately you want them to fail. Can you explain to us?
First of all, because I love him, I respect him, and I admire him, and I admire his team and everything that he does. And this is a sport. You know, one thing is our profession, this is our personal relationship. If my relation has to be damaged because we play against each other and one draw and the other one wins, or the amount of time that we have lost, then I wouldn't talk to him no more. So that's not a relationship, especially a relationship that I consider that both of us have. So a sport, it will never get in my way in a personal relationship, for sure.
And is it harder to do that when it is so fiery and when there are accusations from either side coming at each other?
Depends. If those accusations affect you, it's because maybe that is true. If they don't, and you know, and you show your integrity and you do what is you believe is right, it doesn't have to be. There are opinions, and if you don't like opinions, then you shouldn't be sitting in the position that I am. So I think it's quite simple. Don't take it personal. It's part of our job, and the things that you really care about, make sure you handle them in the right way. And that relationship I really care about, the same with a lot of people in that staff and players that I spend very important years of my life with them.
Does it make it a little bit harder that you were once that side and now you're totally the other side?
No, I think it makes it easier because I know them in very different situations, and when you get to know that person in the goods, in the bads, when things go their way, don't go their way, then you understand much better certain reactions. So for me, it's not a surprise, and I'm very comfortable with that.
Martin Odegaard wrote in the programme notes about how he's progressing. Spoke to Kai Havertz this morning, and he sort of talked about how a lot of the players have stepped up and are filling the voids that Martin has. I mean, he's still clearly around. He said that they're finding their voices a bit more. I wondered how impressed you've been with how your team have coped with his absence so far, and those sort of players that have stepped in that have maybe surprised you in terms of taking on the leadership.
Well, if you put me in the scenario before the start of the season, with the calendar that we were given, with the fixtures that we had, with the 3 away games that we had, and with the amount of injuries that we had to deal with and how we got out of that, I will be very, very pleased, I think. So it's not obviously just with Martin. Obviously, he's one of our best players, one of the players that have more impact in the team in many ways. But there were many others as well, and the team is coped extremely well because we have an exceptional group. A lot of players are taking a different role in their leadership, in their importance in the team, and they embrace that challenge, and I'm really happy for that.
You obviously had a kind of physically and probably quite mentally demanding 10 days. You look at what's ahead of you now, and I know there's PSG, but in the Premier League, home game, 3 home games, Leicester, a chance to kind of build a little bit of momentum and go back to playing with the ball maybe, less so than playing it out in front of your home fans.
As we play with the ball, no?
Yes.
Every game, I mean. So we will do the same.
Well, Kai was saying he didn't really play with the ball.
As good
when
as
he played on Sunday, he was saying to me he's quite looking forward to actually getting his groove back.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll get a lot of momentum now.
Okay, George from BBC.
Mikel, hello. I just wondered, on Sunday, it's Friday now, all these days on, and so many people are still talking about your tactics. And I just wondered what you made of that.
About what?
About the tactics and the decision to defend in the way you did. And I just wondered how far we're 6 days on and people are still talking. I just wondered what you made of that.
That I did what I believe it was the right thing, to be as competitive as possible to win the game.
Roy Keane's had some strong comments to say, and Graham Souness in the fallout from that match. Roy Keane said it was a bit of small club mentality. Graham Souness said Arsenal had a bit of an inferiority complex. I just wondered if you'd want to respond to them.
No.
And just on David Raya, is it fair to say he's a doubt for tomorrow?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Is that it, George? Yeah. Okay, through to Brad from TalkSport.
Brilliant. Hi Mikel, hope you're well. considering what you said about David Wright, it could present an opportunity for someone like Neto tomorrow. I wondered what was it about him that made you decide that he was a player that you wanted to bring into the squad this summer?
Well, we had to react very quickly with the departure of Aaron, and we had him in our list for a few years already. He's played in various countries at the highest level in different roles, and he's always fulfilled it in the right way. And I believe he was the right player because, as well, he was in the Premier League. He had experience, and he's someone that we can throw there in any moment.
In years gone by, people have talked about Arsenal and said, like, defensive side of things has been the club's weakness. You fast forward a couple of years now, you have one of the best defences in the Premier League and world football. Apart from a lot of work in training, what's been the key to get this side to be so organised defensively?
It's the player's mentality, basically, how willing you are to do certain things when you are out of possession, and how do you feel about them, you know? If it's a sacrifice for the team, we are talking, I'm using the wrong words, you know. So if it's adding something special to the team and contributing to that and loving it while you are doing it, then it's something else. The outcome is very, very different. And obviously a lot of work from the coaches, from the players individually, and keep developing those relationships. And then it's about building trust as well within the team, within the squad, that in many phases, whether it's in high press, when we are deeper, on many of the situations that we have to face during games, that we are comfortable to do that.
Available?
No, we had a few bumps and bruises from the game against Everton. A couple of lads didn't quite make it for availability for the game on Tuesday. Everybody got through the Tuesday game okay. So the boys will be out a little while, including Yannick Vestergaard is still not available for the weekend. So we were as we were really. No change from the last Premier League game.
Well, if we could just touch on quickly on that game at Walsall. You spoke afterwards about the frustrations heard from some supporters during that game. And needing perhaps to earn some credit with them. We all want to feel loved. So does it affect you personally when you hear things like that?
Well, I think like as a manager, you're never too far away from challenging times, from criticism. You know, sometimes it's fair, sometimes it's unfair, and that's just the life that you have to live. And for me, I've always said if you don't like that, then don't take these jobs in the first place. So I accept that. I think, as I said, I'll just repeat what I said the other night. I will always try and understand fans' perspective and opinions, and my first initial reaction is not to be too defensive, is to see the rationale of why a feeling may be the way it is, and then in the end try and do something about it. So I'm no different to anybody else in terms of like I said, never being too far away from some questioning or criticism or challenging. And if it's at my door at this moment in time, then it's one I accept. But I also see it as, in these moments, as a good opportunity to show the real. So the real me in this case, to show how well I want to do here, how strong I am as a character, and obviously you want to show how good you are as a coach as well. So it's easy to be really visible and to talk a lot when things are going well. I think the real leaders and strong characters are the ones that face up to difficult times. And if this is one, then here I am, and looking forward to. To continuing to work hard and to get ready for these big games that we're playing in the Premier League, and trying to thrive on the challenge of it. So nothing's changed in terms of getting back from the game the other night and the preparation for Arsenal on the weekend. In terms of our work ethic and our application, I've said every time we've spoke, I say to the players every day, their attitude and application, the engagement's brilliant. We've just got to try and keep building, because that's what we're trying to do to get the results and performances that we want. But as I stand or sit here now, I've never been more determined since I took the job than what I am now to do well. And in the end, that's what you want to do. Supporters pay a lot of money. If any reaction you get from a supporter is authentic, is because that's how they feel about the football club, and you have to respect that. I'll never get too high from praise, and I'll never get too low from criticism. I'll only get motivated to try and improve. And when feelings are not as we want them, then I'll take personal responsibility in trying to change that.
I want to go back to Mikel Arteta and his comments there, just because I feel like all week he's been the subject of this dark arts chat. What did people really expect him to go and do at the Etihad Stadium against 11-man Man City when he had one of his players sent off? Do you think he did the right thing? Was that the right approach to go there ultra defensively?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Look, again, we're talking about Manchester City, who create a wealth of chances against the best of oppositions with 11 men. Arsenal are down to 10 men. Why would they not go on the defensive? Why would they not protect their lead? Why would they not frustrate Manchester City as much as they can and bring out this so-called dark arts? I think it's genius from Mikel Arteta. I genuinely do. If he goes and says, right, we're going to go attack versus attack, Manchester City are going to blow them out of the water and have a fun time doing it. It's probably going to end up 6-7, 8-1, 8-2, sorry. Arsenal are not silly. Mikel Arteta's not silly. He's looking at the bigger picture, long term. Look, if they get a point out of this game, which they did, it's a point closer to where they want to be come the end of the season. But that also says to me that Arsenal are at a different level now. Pep Guardiola understands that Mikel Arteta, he hasn't got his number, but he knows what it takes to be a Premier League champion because of the way he played that game. I don't blame him one bit.
Obviously up to the defenders to score the goals in that encounter. A defender as well, Gabriel, scored against Man City and he scored against Spurs. Arsenal and these corners that they seem to have worked out, they have this routine down pat right now, the danger at set pieces.
Yeah, they're absolutely a dangerous set pieces. And you have to applaud them for it. I mean, there's got to be at one point where it's such a narrow angle that they've got to set it perfectly. And you know that it was a copycat because they had one just before it, which they missed. But then the second one, every time you see Declan Rice go to the corner flag and you think to yourself, it's going to be another go, and they're just going to go for it. And it's amazing how many people can't defend set pieces really as well. One thing I do want to say with Arsenal is I do think that sometimes people expect entertainment over trophies, you know, and then when you do that and you do put that philosophy ahead of, you know, I'm always going to be attack-based, and then you don't win, then you're called naive. You're called as lacking that winning mentality. So I just kind of feel on this particular topic, I don't know how Mikel Arteta can win. I don't know how Arsenal can win, because people were criticising them last year when they weren't putting their foot on the gas and putting their foot on the neck of Manchester City by really going for it, showing that mentality. And when they do show that mentality, then they're the dark arts. How do you win?
Yeah, been accused for years, I think, of being soft, have Arsenal, and now it's the dark arts. Just 25 goals since the start of last year from set pieces. Critical now as well with their main creative force, Martin Odegaard, being injured.
But they were still able to create opportunities and chances. Now they're having to rely on Gabriel Saliba. Incidentally, another stat for you. I think since Gabriel signed for Arsenal, he's the top defensive goal scorer. So, you know, that just says to me that from set pieces, they're a threat. And that's it. It doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to always be through Saka or, on the other side, Odegaard or Sterling. Sometimes you can go a little bit more direct, go back to front, put crosses in the box and get the big players attacking it aggressively.
Or just give Ricardo Calafiori the ball and he can show you what he can do.
There you go.
I mean, he's a goal-scoring defender, right? And if you just let him go and have fun on the ball, he can show you. He already did it.
Yeah, unbelievable, that goal. What a way to announce yourself. Calafiori, obviously some talk about Kyle Walker not being given enough time here, but this is the build-up to that goal. First goal for him in Arsenal colours. What a game to do it in. What a way to score. Just sensational, Mina.
It was. And sorry.
Thanks, Mina.
Yeah, you're welcome. Oh, sorry, go for it.
But that is honestly, no, you go for it, because you can tell me exactly how that scored as a striker.
That's a really, really difficult technique he just showed there. Opening up his body, whipping the ball hard, high over the goalkeeper. Really, really difficult. Absolutely fantastic. But going back briefly, very, very briefly, to Kyle Walker being out of position, he had more than enough time to get himself in position. he was more interested and more intrigued into having conversations
Yeah.
with his defensive players rather than getting himself in position.
I just don't think anyone thought Calafiori was going to manage that rocket. Yes.
Yeah, unreal. I want to talk about goal scorers because Leicester go to the Emirates Stadium and Jamie Vardy loves a goal against Arsenal. We can roll back the years and see some of his goals that he scored against Arsenal, and he goes back to the Emirates Stadium now. A striker that was once, linked with Arsenal.
Yes, and she scored 11 goals in 16 Premier League appearances against them. So we know that when it comes to Arsenal, he's always going to have a shout. But right now, Leicester don't look like a team that can really put together a win against Arsenal with the way that's going, and Steve Cooper sort of fighting for the fans to love him. I think it's going to be difficult. You always have a chance when you have Vardy. You can tell us how brilliant he is as a striker, but in all honesty, I think Arsenal are just too strong for this side right now.
Do you want to ask your question to Jermaine?
I'm feeling very, very bullied at this moment. I was going to ask you this.
Instead of asking me the question, I will let you know that while I was playing for Leicester, Jamie Vardy came in to replace me. I'm not embarrassed by that fact because he's a legend of Leicester City. He scored umpteen goals. I absolutely love the guy. He's hilarious. He's great to be around, great fun to be around. And I wish him all the very best. It doesn't hurt me. I love football. So I want the best for my friends. He is a friend, so therefore, come on, JV. Same again, mate.
But what a nice
Are you going to be cheering on Leicester over Arsenal?
No.
Okay.
Okay. Well, we will hear their predictions, but that comes at the end of the show. We have so much more to come on Team Talks.
Darren Lewis and Tim Sherwood are with us to look ahead on this weekend's action. To look ahead on this weekend's action, look back at this weekend's action. Let's get this on the right timeline for a start. I think we're a bit discombobulated. That was breathless stuff yesterday.
Yeah.
Look, I know you're emotionally involved in it.
Yeah.
But it was just one of those proper title challenge, end to end, thrilling, bit of needle, bit of aggression. It was good. It was just good. Is what it was.
Could you imagine how that would have ended up if we could have had 11 against 11?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because that's what it comes down to. Players getting booked for kicking the ball away. But it was a disappointment simply because of that. What he got sent off for in the end. And I would look at it from Trossard's point of view. We know that's happened just a couple of weeks ago. So in the current climate, you can't do that. And that's what I was probably frustrated at last night, being 2-1 up and then you're losing a man, knowing what City are capable of. How many games haven't they lost there for? 38? Yeah. I don't know what it is.
48.
It's 48. Yeah, see, I tried to dumb them down, but no, 10 more it was. But, in the end, I probably think I'm very happy with the result and very proud of how the boys handled that whole situation.
Yeah, they've gone to Manchester City and they've taken a point, and you would think that would be across the course of a season, that wouldn't be too bad a result. It's because of the late equaliser, obviously, but just a word on the game overall, Tim. It was just proper entertainment, wasn't it?
I loved it. I thought it was really good. I was intrigued to see how Arsenal would go and approach it, because I felt like they have to go and take 3 points. Because don't rely on any other team to take points off Man City, because it doesn't happen. If you want to win the Premier League, you're going to have to go to your biggest rival, which is Man City, and you're going to have to win. There was a lot of talk before the North London derby. If they lose to Tottenham, if they lose to Man City, the season's over. They very nearly won both games, so they're right in it. They're a different... I think they're made of different stuff now, Arsenal. They've got the best back four, back five, back six with Calafiori coming in there now. He's coming to the side. I think they're title chargers now. I really do. I don't think they're favourites. I think Man City's still are favourites. But the needle in the game was really encouraging for me. I really like that. It's a different spice to it. We've seen Liverpool and Man City. It's all about handshakes and cuddles and, who can outplay each other. This is a different needle. It's great. I love it. It's a throwback, and long may it continue.
It has an old school feel to it, doesn't it?
Yeah. You can think about all of the old bust-ups and battles between Manchester United and Arsenal, Chelsea and Manchester United as well. We're still talking about the spite afterwards. You've got the viral videos of Haaland throwing the ball at the head of Gabriel afterwards. All of the little videos of Haaland being a little bit naughty with his comments towards Arteta as well, and a couple of the younger players as well. Yeah. And so this is one of those ones. You always know a good bust-up and a good rivalry because everyone's talking about that rather than the football days later. But what I think Arsenal did yesterday was send out messages. They send out messages that they're a serious team now. no one's ever going to talk about their attitude going to the Etihad again, because they could and should have won the game and would have done if there were 11 players on the pitch. I think it would have been a very different game.
I think it would have gone the other way. I mean, that's my personal opinion.
What, they would have gone to City?
If they would have stayed with 11 men, I think they would have opened up and Man City would have broken down.
No, sure.
But I might be wrong.
But no, I do, but just in terms of the messages, I think Gabriel and Saliba, they are establishing themselves as arguably the best centre-half pairing in the Premier League.
Although, as Roy Keane said on the UK coverage yesterday, they conceded 2 goals.
Yeah, they did, but I think in the context of yesterday's match, that would be true. Of what their presence and what they represent, their ability at set pieces and all of that. Because when Roy did say that, and I think it was Paul Burston who was sort of really gushing about them.
It was
Michael Richards. And when he said that, I did sit there and think, yeah, actually, you can't really sit anywhere and say they're the best player. But as a partnership, they're just so outstanding, and they were so unfortunate to leave now to lose. The flip side of that, of course, is that if you don't have the defensive discipline to last out the whole game, then you can make the opposite case for them not being as imperious as, say, Vidic and Ferdinand, or Carvalho and Terry, Gallas and Terry, so many of the top centre-half pairings who have been outstanding. But I just think about their ability at set pieces and the way that Gabriel rose to head that ball home. It was just outstanding.
You know what as well, Kels, when we talk about, like, Roy, because Roy will say something like that and it will vex me, because it has just vexed me. I'm probably going to say something, because when you look at how that first Man City goal came about, we know what Erling Haaland wants to do, how he wants to run in. The mistakes made before that is totally out of Gabriel and Saliba's hands, where they are and where they've got to go.
Okay,
that's where the game's going to.
Isn't asking for a card supposed to be a bookable offence as well?
Yeah, exactly. But this is where the game's going, Kels.
It's a very specific action. You can't do this, otherwise. But you can do this.
When Wright is talking about the warning there, it's not going to come now. The warning is Declan Rice against Brighton. That's the warning. That's what you should have. Mikel will be really upset. He was talking about after the game about it was only a second. It was only a second, only half a second. But them split seconds is what the game gets turned on. You know, decision-making. And when you lose your head, he kicked that ball away to kill time. He just kicked it away. He's out of frustration.
That's what should be taken into consideration, surely. I think the intensity of the game, all that, Darren, for me.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Losing that.
I think, because you can... Well, some of the best referees, the reason why some people think they're the best, because they turn around, they say to players, come on, I'm trying to help you here. And they're very demonstrative about that. So when you're watching, you know what they're trying to do and say. They're trying to preserve the spectacle. Once that sending off happened, suddenly there was no spectacle. It was attack against defence for the remainder of the game.
It was an amazing fight from Arsenal.
Well, yeah, but are they fighting a bit too much? That's 17 red cards since Boxing Day 2019.
Yeah, but if we're going to go into that kind of stat, Kels, then we have to go back and look at how those red cards came about, because that red card for me, that's not a red card. Declan Rice.
But it doesn't matter which law they're breaking. If they've got more red cards than anyone else since then, does it mean that there is a discipline problem?
No. Do you know what I think about...
No, it doesn't.
I'll say no, because especially... No, Kels, only because of what people are getting sent off for now is something that the game has to try to adjust to. You will get sent off for that, Trossard. Declan, you'll get sent off for that. You know, but like, Doku, you could kick it there and then it could come back here, but you don't have to get... So where's the consistency?
But I'm less concerned about the red cards, only because the last time Arsenal had that many red cards, it was when Arsene Wenger's team were winning titles. They were a dirty team. Lots of people say that Arsenal have been, in the last, 15, 20 years, too easy to play against, too powder puff. They're not able to cope. Yeah, son-in-laws, exactly. And they were nice boys, and suddenly, looking at them yesterday, they're warriors, they're monsters, they're all over the pitch, they're physically imposing. They're, you look at the way they're blocking off keepers for their set pieces. And also, there was a long period of time where Arsenal, people would say about Arsene Wenger, he practices attacking but no defence. Where's the defensive steel? Where's the edge? Where's the sharp? Well, that's all there as part of this Arsenal side. And if there are red cards along the way, it means because they are not nice boys anymore, they're prepared to fight and dig in. And if they do get red cards as a result, maybe, but still they're at the top of the Premier League.
But then red cards, they don't matter until they matter.
Yeah,
and what I'm saying, they've had 2 red cards this year, and if we're led to believe that yesterday, if they would have stayed with 11, they would have got an extra 2 points. At Brighton, my belief, they would have won that game at home to Brighton if Declan Rice doesn't get sent off. That's 2 red cards, what could have cost them 4 points. And that 4 points is the difference between them winning the league and losing the league.
Yeah, I agree.
I think
only 2 points.
You still have to look at the week they've had as well.
But there's all, just to go back to the point, I know you were sort of being funny when you were saying, you know, it's not a problem with discipline because they're not necessarily vicious red cards.
Yeah.
But is that not almost more of an issue? Because if actually if it's for a hard challenge or if it's for like a, you know, stopping somebody going through on goal or something like that, then that's kind of worth the hit. But what Tim's saying is, if you're getting sent off for kicking the ball away because that's your second yellow, is that not a bit of a waste of a red card?
I can't get away from the fact the way the game is now and what you can get a red card for. And yes, you have to think to yourself, obviously, you're feeling that Trossard maybe saw what happened, so you have to kind of relax in the moment and say, right, I could get sent off for that, so I'll just come. But it's not that easy, especially in the game, the time of the game. Why can't referees understand that side of the game, where a player has to be in control because what could happen, the ramifications if he gets sent off, and then the referee treats you like a man and say, listen. Yeah. I know the game. How many times a referee put you and say, listen, I know there's a lot of people here. We know how much is on the game. You just need to calm down.
Yeah.
Where's that gone?
Before the game, Bryce.
Absolutely. Before the game and while it's happening.
I used to say in the tunnel to the referee, it's a very emotional game. Yeah. There will be tackles, both from us and both from them. Just keep your cards in your pocket. I used to give them that information when I played. Because I know I'm trying to make them, educate them that this is a high-pressured environment today. Bit different. And when it's a slippery surface. Yeah. It's a bit slippy today, might be some mistimed tackles, bear that in mind.
You know the thing as well, that what would happen as well, Kels, is if people can watch a referee controlling it and say, listen, I know he's wrong there, but I'm not going to book him for that, I'm going to give him a warning. People are used to that. That can still happen in the game. You can still, as a referee, control a game like that and say, any more. Because we're seeing games. I saw a game the other day.
Giving referees leeway leads to more inconsistency,
and so then you get pressure that gets.
Then you get players going, well, he did that earlier in the game, and you didn't book him for that, and yet you've booked me for the same thing. And
because we've set a precedent that we're doing everything to the letter of the law. It can't be like that.
But the reason that that's happening is so that referees are, if they apply the letter of the law, it means that they can't be accused of being inconsistent, which is everybody's biggest gripe about referees. It's the one we started off with when we talked about the second yellow for Trossard. And you went, well, what about Doku? What about when Szoboszlai got sent off? Didn't get, a yellow card for kicking the ball away with the same ref in a similar situation. You go, well, it's inconsistency that is the most frustrating thing. And the only way referees will say to fix that is to apply the letter of the law.
I'm sure the referees want to use some common sense, but they're not allowed to. Legislation doesn't allow them to. The mandate is you stick to the law to try and get the more consistency. What me and Wright is saying is wrong. But we would like to see it like that. But it's not.
When's the When do we move away from where you know, like referee will book you and he'll go, they're there, over there. We had that, and then we kind of seem to have lost it overnight, haven't we? It's more a question than because
And that's as much for the crowd as anything else. That's great when you're inside the stadium and you can see it's a kind of communication. All I was saying was we can't criticise referees for inconsistency and then say, but we need to make the laws more flexible. You can't have both.
No, I don't think you can. No, but I think that you can use common sense and say, listen. You know, it's nearly half-time. Now, you just need to... I know the emotions are running high. Any more of that, I'm going to have to send you off. You're already on a yellow. Bam, you understand that.
Arsenal at that stage were 2-1 up because, again, it was a set piece. And, again, it was a strong physical presence in the box.
And a fantastic ball. He played one earlier on where it's very strange to me because Pep talked about how good they were at set pieces. And on the first corner, he headed over the bar, Gabriel, Doku was marking him. I couldn't understand that. And on the second one, they've obviously said, right, Carl, you mark him. And the ball is so good. Once he's made his move, we saw Carl trying to stop him and that. He can't be stopped if the ball is good. And that is what we know we're capable of doing at City. Obviously, scoring the goal what Calafiori scored. We don't normally score goals from outside the box. I was only saying that the other day. But that was a brilliant goal, which we got back in the game because of the referee. Yeah. Right, we got back in the game, but that is what we're capable of, and that is what we've done. And I think, as much as people were saying, if it was 11 men, it would say, I still believe that Arsenal and the new Arsenal and the mentality of this, how deep they're willing to go, I think we beat them. I think we'd have beat them.
I actually...
And they were celebrating.
I know you
their draw.
disagreed.
And they were celebrating their draw.
Yeah, but this is going back to Rodri's comments from last season,
exactly.
isn't it? Yeah.
Rodri's saying it, but they were celebrating the draw because the emotions take over. They know that Arsenal are on their tails now. Arsenal are up for it physically and mentally and everything that comes in respect to the football. So they've got a proper,
they're celebrating a draw because they've played for a draw because City have been cautious.
And it's straight back to the Etihad for us. And I want to start by showing you the second half stats. I mean, it's incredibly one-sided, as you'd expect. Arsenal with that man less in that second half. But, Farah, if you saw stats like this, you would think that was a very one-sided 5-0, 6-0, 7-0 win for that team, wouldn't you?
Oh, most definitely. I mean, 88% possession, 392 complete passes to Arsenal's. You can see it there. 28 shots on goal to Arsenal's, 1 in the second half. I mean, I think the only thing you've got is 16 outside the box, and Arsenal didn't have any. But the thing that stands out the most is the 1.4 expected goals from 28 shots. That's low for the amount of shots they're taking.
Yeah. Arsenal, we're always going to struggle, but that's quite low for anybody.
That's an understatement of the year. I think the one shot is when Havertz went through and he actually was right on top of Ederson and kicked it against him. But the reason why that is so low is because all their shots were such a low XG because Arsenal encouraged them to have plenty of shots from outside the box.
But let's take a quick look at what changes had to be made in the second half. It was Ben White came on the field as right of 3 centre-backs, meaning a back five. It was Saka, the captain for the day, that was replaced. We didn't know whether that would mean, they would play a little bit narrower, try and leave one player up front, but we'll show you right from the very first clip that just meant that Arsenal set their stall out in that shape very, very quickly, Leroy.
And they certainly did. Look about it, they just left the ball. There's no press. Everybody gets back into the shape. The back five into their shape. And then there's a midfield four. Havertz came in on the right-hand side. There's a back five, all in the line. And then the midfield four in front of them. Martinelli went into the left side alongside Rice Party and Havertz, who did a great job going back.
Well, that's how they started the second half. But they got deeper and deeper and deeper. And at times it was, as we'll show you, it was 6 at the back and 3 in midfield. Then it was 7 at the back. I mean, I thought, you must see it there, look. Martinelli ended up getting deeper and deeper, and I still thought they were comfortable enough, Arsenal. Yes, they've got 3-man midfield, and I thought the midfielders worked incredibly hard, but I thought they were always sort of within the width of their own penalty area. I never really felt that City stretched them into these spaces out here very often. Never really asked them to come out of areas that they didn't want to be in.
Yeah, and I thought that was a perfect game plan from Arteta for this second half, because Arsenal know Manchester City like those balls, like to break lines and really thread and hurt centrally. And I think what Arsenal did was compact that central area, and you'll see you just highlighted the if you hold it there, look. This is probably the only one that's probably a little bit out. Sorry, well, do it from here. Let me undo that. That was.
That's all right.
Undo that one. Okay, it doesn't want to.
Go on, do it now.
Go on. Go from here. And if you look at this here, how compact they are, and that's the areas that we know Manchester City like to slide the ball through. They're saying to Manchester City, take the wide areas, put crosses in. And the reason why they're saying that, because they have 2 centre-halves in Gabriel and Saliba that don't mind dealing with crosses from wide areas. And Manchester City wasn't prepared to do that.
Rodri just said, we just heard him, that when they're making these side-to-side passes, it's generally just to try and move people around so that they can then break the line, they can then slip a pass. Do you think that was Mikel Arteta's inside knowledge that was saying, do not leave this space, do not give up anything, easy passes that break the line. We can drop deep and we can come out to block shots, and but we do it from that kind of position.
You're absolutely right, Leon. And his inside knowledge was that when City get into these areas, because we were saying, no, they need width, but he wants his wide players to be in and around the edges of the 18-yard box. You see there, they allowed Diaz to have the shot, it goes over. But look at Doku, down here. I think it's Bernardo Silva in and around here. Pep actually wants them there. Back when we played, we want our wingers as wide as possible, get the ball, put it in the box. But he wants them to get the ball, so when they're dribbling, they're taking them in the box. And they get into the byline, and that produces... Eventually, they got the goal, but that's what Pep wants.
No, they don't mind Ruben Diaz shooting from that kind of distance. Arsenal seem to keep forcing Manchester City into where positions Arsenal wanted to go into. What did Manchester City have to do, Farah? What should have Manchester City done a little bit differently?
I just felt like they would recycled the ball way too many times. I know we were talking about the wide players and Pep likes them narrower. Could they have pulled out and maybe tried to... They started really wide in the first half. Maybe could they have, stretched the fullbacks and brought them out and created gaps, but they certainly needed more movement. It's quite static along the back line. You see, if he pulls it here, Manchester City it's quite static, so Arsenal don't really have to think about anything. There's no little darted runs that, in between, maybe if we just make a run and try and drop them off without getting, them unselfish runs we talk about. They just needed to be a little bit sharper in and around the box with off-ball movements, 2v1s as you're highlighting there, wide areas. We didn't see any of that. We left wide players to go 1v1 quite often in the game, and I felt like if you... Go on. You're completely right. Go on.
No, I was going to say, but you're absolutely right, Frej. But the one thing you notice is that every single Man City player is having 3, 4, 5 touches. And when you were playing, when Leon was playing, as a coach, you say 1 or 2 touches, 1 or 2 touches. But Arsenal are getting in people's faces. There's number 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And if you know somebody's taking 3 touches, you know you've got them where you want them.
I think the worst thing, isn't it, when you're a team that is having to be disciplined, not jump out. The worst thing is that when teams play quickly, it really makes you want to jump because you get a little bit impatient. The fact that City, as you just highlighted earlier, Roy, they were slow on the ball, weren't they? They slowed it down, which actually made it a little bit easier for Arsenal to stay in that shape.
What they did do well, Manchester City, is take quick set pieces. I mean, they never let Arsenal rest in that sense. When you're defending like Arsenal are having to do, when the ball goes out, it's that general moment where you go, brilliant, time to get a breather, time to fill your lungs, to reassess yourself and get going in. Man City didn't allow them that opportunity. It was relentless in their pursuit of that equaliser.
Exactly, and this is stressful. This is stressful to defend your box against Man City for 55 minutes. It is, and any team, is going to have lapses in concentration. And when they did have a lapse of concentration, David Raya was absolutely excellent.
Yeah. He'd have been very proud of his team, Mikel Arteta, because he kind of forced Manchester City to have their most shots they've ever had under Pep in the Premier League. 18 shots from outside the penalty area. That's not what Manchester City do when they're at their best.
No, and look at the stats. They only won three of those games. Oh, right, at least 7-0. But look, and a lot of those games were up against. I think that was a late winner for Southampton. Lost against Leeds, West Ham a draw, Nottingham Forest a draw. So when you get the City to take shots from distance, you might have a chance of getting something out of the game.
And the personnel that are taking the shots. You've got 3 centre-halves taking shots from distance. You're quite happy with that.
That was key.
Diaz
no Rodri
here,
on the pitch. No Kevin De Bruyne would have made a difference. But this was the equaliser. They did keep going, Manchester City. And as I spoke about, look at Arsenal players now. It's Havertz is on the floor. It's take a breath. It's let's organise. And suddenly, Grealish, Gundogan, look at Jorginho at the bottom. Look how he sees it. He sees that they've just left themselves open into that position. They nearly keep your flies across, nearly stop it. But John Stones, I mean, look at the reaction from those Manchester City players. That says a lot about how they feel about the importance of this game.
Yeah, it's only important just only in the context of this game, important in context of the Premier League title race. Because Arsenal go away from that. If they get the 3 points, their confidence is lifted to another level after Spurs and that as well. They still, look, delighted with the point, but Arsenal would have lifted them to another level.
It was a blow for Arsenal, considering how well they'd done. But that, I think, now is 47 games or 47 Premier League games unbeaten at home. 48 now in all comps at home for Man City. So it was a big thing. But now we'll just see the shots. Look at Arsenal's shots compared to Manchester City's. The smaller the circles, the smaller the opportunities, and that's what they sort of limited themselves to, or Arsenal limited City to that anyway.
Yeah.
I like that about Arsenal. I think it showed a completely different side to what we're used to. We've seen a possession-based Arsenal that are exciting on the eye. They showed an ugly side to them in this and a resilient side where they can be together and make it difficult for the champions.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll find out how big a result that will be come the end of the season and that potential big blow of an injury to Rodri. Well, thank you very much to my guests. That's all we've got.
So we're going to move on to Liverpool next. They are aiming for a 5th win from their opening 6 games as they head to Molineux to take on Wolves, who find themselves winless and bottom of the table after an awful start to the season.
First of all, how's Alisson? Is he ready to return? Where is he in his recovery?
We think he is. He trained yesterday a part of our session with the group, so we expect him to do the whole session today. So we think he's available, but of course we have to train today. And of course we're really happy with Alisson being back, but I want to emphasize on the fact that Queeve did really well in the 2 games he was on goal for us. So another example of me having 2 and I think even 3 good options in certain position in this in goal.
Whereas in your forward line, you've got 6 options. Just thinking, Jota scored 2 goals against West Ham. Salah's got 4 goals in his 7 games so far. Gakpo's off the mark with 2 against West Ham. Nunez started back-to-back games and scored against Bournemouth, and Luis Diaz 5 goals in 6 appearances so far. Add to that, you've been able to give Chiesa minutes. So, talk us through how you look at, or how would you describe the decisions you've got to make when selecting your starting forward line?
For me, it says 2 things. It says, one, that these players have a lot of quality, and second of all, it says that the team is always creating chances for the players that we are selecting for that game. Because if we play Cody or if we play Lucio, the team is just creating chances for these individuals, and because they have so much quality, they can make this promote this to assists or goals. So yeah, that's what it says to me.
Also, it's just I need to follow up on that, just because it's showing that they're sharp as well, whether they've been out of the side, they're coming in and producing. How are you able to maintain that sharpness when they're not necessarily getting, you know, the maximum amount of minutes?
Yeah, that's the positive thing about playing so many games, that these players will always play a lot of games. And I think they understand that they can't play every game unless it's absolutely necessary to keep them fit and sharp and to keep them ready to perform like they do. So as long as they accept the situation as it is, and that's what they're doing at the moment, because they have good numbers, and I see them smile a lot as well, then it's a very positive thing for us, and that's also one of my things on my job. I have to keep them alert and happy in the position they are in.
Finally, for me, I think I know the answer to this as well, but with regards to contract situations, obviously there's further talk of Trent being offered a new contract, continues to be linked with Real Madrid. How disappointed would you be if you only got to work with Trent and or Virgil or Mo for just 1 year? Because I'm guessing you're not going to bring us up to date on what the contract situation is at the moment.
No, and you are just trying to find another way of asking me. I'm very happy that these 3 players are in my team at the moment, and there are a lot of games to be played in this season, and especially also in the upcoming week and weeks. So I'm really happy that I can select them, and let's see what the future brings.
Continuing on with that theme of the depth of the squad, Curtis Jones obviously impressing in midweek as well, particularly after the change of position, when it's so necessary in this busy period that you've already spoken about. How impressed are you with this inherited squad's willingness to learn, adapt on the job, on the go?
I think I've said it on many occasions already that I'm really happy with the squad I inherited, not only because of their quality, but maybe even more about the culture that Jurgen left behind. So all these players are team players, so they accept their role even if they are not playing, and they always want to work hard for the team first. And yeah, it's been a privilege to inherit a squad like I inherited from Jurgen.
Wolves, obviously the opposition, struggling to get off the mark this season, just 1 point from their 5 games. What do you expect from them this weekend?
I don't think it represents the way they played, and they had a very tough fixture list in the first 5 games. I think they played Arsenal away, Newcastle away, Villa away, Chelsea at home. So yeah, that's a more difficult schedule than we had, for example. So you always have to take this into account. And of course, I had to watch a few games of them because we play them tomorrow, and I can see that even the games were very tight and they deserved more than they got a few times. So I think they will be fine during the season. Hopefully not tomorrow, but they will be fine in the end of the season.
Right. Hi there, Arne. More encouraging signs this week with the victories against Bournemouth and West Ham. But in both games, you gave up quite a lot of chances to the opposition. How much of a concern is that? Because excellent goalkeeping from Quibin Kelleher in both games. But you can't always guarantee that goalkeeping excellence, even despite the fact you've got, you know, quality in that position.
Yeah. Now, the last thing you say is very important for us in the last 2 games, that we have a lot of quality in that position. On the other hand, we create a lot of chances as well. But in an ideal world, we don't concede as much as we did in the last 2 games. But if there's one big difference for me between my former club and the competition I worked in and this competition, is that every team has so many quality players in their squad and in their team, that they're always able to create chances as well. So you also have to give credit to the teams we face and the quality they are having. But we need to do better in that aspect if we want to keep clean sheets more and more often. So we keep emphasizing on that. One of the reasons why the other team doesn't score that easy, it's also because we have a good goalkeeper. But if you every time count the bodies that are inside our 18-yard box the moment the other team gets a chance, that's also a real positive thing, and it makes it more difficult for the other team to score as well.
Great kid. I'm absolutely devastated for him because of the energy and the life and the no matter how things go each week, he gives absolutely everything, and he always attacks things and does things in the right way. So a big loss to us from that point of view. And of course, he was showing signs that he was capable of playing at the level that we were hoping that he was going to be able to play at. So from a team and a squad point of view, a big blow to us, obviously. But with that brings opportunity for others. And, so Alfie Pond, for instance, gets a step closer. A boy that was obviously out on loan last year at Stockport, played for us in the Cup at Brighton. Is extremely excited this week that he's up and around it and has a chance of featuring in Premier League games. So with all of it, I am absolutely gutted for Yerson, and of course it's a blow to the group and where we are. But we have a real good mentality inside the place that we don't let things like that stop what we're trying to do and what we're trying to be. So the message from me is you're always going to suffer setbacks in a Premier League season. This one, a big one, of course, especially for Yerson personally. But we will find a way to make sure that we still capable of fighting and picking up points to get us where we need to get to.
In terms of some other players, how's Tosti? Is he kind of fit and ready to go this week?
We'll test him again in the morning. He's trained a bit this week. I wouldn't say he was fully fit, but obviously there is still another day to go, and he's getting closer. So a little bit more to do. Make sure that he came out of today without anything. Ideal world, you'd probably leave him a little bit longer, but we'll see how he is tomorrow.
Just last player to check on. You mentioned last week Dan Bentley had an illness.
Mm-hmm.
How is?
Yeah, there's quite a bit of illness actually. So there's probably a few that will need a check tomorrow on how they're feeling. But Bence is okay now, so Bence will be fine to be around the matchday squad tomorrow.
You probably don't want to give too much away, but do you want to share any of the other players?
No, we just had a little bit of a virus going around. So Dr. Kai has been busy this week trying to help the lads feel a little bit better, and quite a few missed training today. So we'll see how we are tomorrow. I'm still really, it's a fantastic home game against Liverpool, and we've got a few little issues going on at the moment, and but looking forward to getting back out there in front of the home fans and making it as difficult as possible for Liverpool, which is what we tried to do every time we played one of the big sides, and looking forward to seeing what we can do tomorrow.
This Liverpool and the way that they've been defending at the start of the season has been a huge talking point. But I want to talk about one of their defenders and his future. Because Trent Alexander-Arnold and whether he will still be at Liverpool next season has been such a big talking point. An interesting one as well. He's one of 3 very seniors who are out of contract in the summer. He's still performing though. It doesn't look like it's affecting him in any way.
No, you can't let it affect you. Contracts are one of those things where you're going to get one, whether it's at the club that you've come through the academy at, which in his case, I, from a neutral, would love to see that. I would love to see him be a one-club man. the most important thing is that he continues to play the game, continues doing the simple things, continues the great distribution that he's known for, improving in areas in terms of his defensive elements. But I would still give him a 7 out of 10, 7.5 out of 10 for his defensive perspective, from a defensive perspective. But Liverpool, they dominate possession, so you don't really need to think or worry too much about how his defensive game is. I do want to see him stay, but there's plenty of time for that. Look, there's a new manager in. He needs to see and figure out what he wants from the team, how he wants his team to play, which is not that dissimilar to Jurgen Klopp, but I feel like it's a little bit more defensive-minded, so he's not going gung-ho, he's not always going for another goal. But again, I do quite feel like that suits Trent's game.
We saw an assist there from Trent for Diaz in the last little clip. He's up to 59 assists now. His assist against Bournemouth took him to 59. It's remarkable when you consider where he plays. He's now third on the all-time list for Liverpool. He just surpassed Steve McManaman.
I mean, he's such a beautiful player to watch when he is, especially in that kind of system, when he's playing under a Dutch manager, a German manager, anyone who's going full-blown attacking play, and you can see what he can do on the ball. I think what's so fascinating about him is that why we love him so much is because he is so ambitious, and that's why perhaps he is looking to see how he can satisfy that ambition. And he's so concentrated right now. He talked about this in an interview that he said, I do want to be a great defender because defense wins championships. And I think there are some moments where you can have like a glitch or a drop in concentration and the lack of awareness around who's around you. For example, in that match against Real Madrid in the final of the Champions League, these things matter. And I think that he set himself this target, and he said that I've asked Arne Slot to be very tough with me. So I want you to tell me off if I'm not doing well. And he's doing all this extra work on the defensive side of it, which makes you think, I really want this player to stay, because look at the ambition that he has to improve himself, and that's why you would want him to stay. But yes, he's now combining the duality of role. We already know that he's so brilliant going forward, and now he's trying to improve the defensive side. He's going to be a perfect player, and you'd want to keep him if you're Liverpool.
Yeah, one player who has been outstanding for Liverpool at the start of the season is Luis Diaz. We saw him scoring in that last clip there, assisted by Trent. He's got 5 goals in 4 Premier League appearances, starting the season like a house on fire. What do you like about what you're seeing?
I love how raw he is, like the raw pace. I love that he's not afraid to attack defenders. What I feel like Liverpool missed out on last season, obviously he had a very serious personal issue.
Yeah.
He had injuries last season, so it kind of interrupted his progression. This is the player that Liverpool signed. This is what they were looking for when he put pen to paper. He's bringing everything. He's got the physicality. He's a small guy, but he's got the physicality. I love him as a player, genuinely love him as a player.
So much depth in that Liverpool forward line. It's like you look around and there are so many different options you can go for. Darwin Núñez, Diogo Jota. You can bring on Federico Chiesa that they've just brought in, who just managed that beautiful assist. Was it a goal? Was it intended to be a goal? Was it supposed to be an assist? And then obviously you've got, Luis Diaz in this kind of form. You just think whoever they substitute, they can rest whoever they like, and whoever will come on will do the job for them.
Midweek, and they did it with a 3-0 win against Bournemouth. And although there were interesting goal scorers with Luis Diaz, who'd had a really good start to this season, Darwin Núñez, who has been hot and cold since he's started playing for Liverpool, with a fantastic goal in that one. Really, a lot of the focus has been on Ryan Gravenberch. In the centre of that Liverpool midfield. Yeah. Owen Hargreaves sat here a few weeks ago in your position. I'm not quite sure if he's going to be able to do this against the big sides. If he's not a naturally defensive-minded player playing in that situation, he might struggle. But for now, Tim, it seems as though it's working.
He looks like a defensive-minded, responsible footballer, and who can play the number 6 role. I saw him as a number 8. Yes, he didn't have a rhythm of games under Klopp, but I think he's got all the attributes to play in the 6th role. It's a controlling influence. It looks like when he gets the ball, it's not a hot potato. He looks like he's very confident. It looks like he owns the pitch when he receives the ball. Look, he strolls into these areas, and when he gets past the midfield, it's like breaking lines with a pass. He breaks it with movement. Look how he bursts into areas, and now they've got a real problem. He picks a pass out. It's a poor finish on that occasion. I think he's got the whole package. When he needs to break it up, he does. He gives it simple. He gives it to people who can play. Responsibility is the biggest thing for that position. You need to be a game controller, control the tempo of the game. I think he's capable of doing that. Look at that. That's Patrick Vieira, that little glimpse there. I mean, he's got a long way before he gets to Patrick's standard, but look, responsible, middle of the pitch, always available and ticking the game over. And if you want to go and express yourself and have shots and burst yourself forward, you're capable of doing it. Big boy, 6'3", you know, he's capable of doing it. For me, I think they've stumbled again around a defensive midfield player who looks like he's really enjoying the role. He's playing alongside McAllister there and Szoboszlai. I think they've got a wonderful midfield, I really do.
Yeah, it's really interesting because he spoke, and you can, you know, you only need to look at that to realise, you know, what he's getting right in terms of his position and everything that's required of him. But he spoke when he was on international duty with the Netherlands about how much more Arne Slot's style of football suits him compared to Jurgen Klopp's. Because this isn't a player who's come from nowhere. He's always been known as a technical footballer, as a gifted footballer, but it hasn't quite clicked for him anywhere. This position seems to have done that for him.
Maybe so as well, Kels. And the thing is, when you read some of the Bayern Munich like chats, fan chats, and even the man, they were disappointed that he left. And I think that with Bayern Munich playing with a double pivot, they didn't believe that he could fit into that. But when you watch him, especially when he's coming from the 6, and then you see when he can pass it through the line, he can progress through the line, he could be in a 10 and have a shot. So when you say that maybe it didn't suit him with Klopp, it's because it seems like Liverpool are playing in that area a bit more, where the play can be built up, where he can either be the one that's building, or while it's building, he could be the one that's making the run, like we saw in one of those clips. But you could say that with the Zubimendi not going through, they could have really unearthed the one for themselves now, because when you watch those games, and obviously we want to see him against maybe the top 3, top 4, and if he's putting in those kind of performance, then obviously Liverpool have struck gold, because he seems to have everything. He's got all the attributes.
Yeah.
You know,
and we've seen how much that player has cost over the years, Darren.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've seen
we're like 100 millions and 90 millions and 70 millions for the number 6. I mean, he's relatively cheap.
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, as a player, he's got that game intelligence, he's got the discipline to be able to play in the 6. He played in attacking midfield position against Milan the other day, and the talk has been, because the guys have been asking Arne Slot, what do you want to do with him? And Arne Slot has been saying that because he's such a versatile player, so adaptable, he's got that licence really to play him in different positions until he gets to January. And if, as seems the case, Zubimendi still does want to, because apparently he's changed his mind.
He wants to come now.
Now he's seeing how Ryan Gravenberch is going on.
Let me get there quick.
So it might well be the case that he does end up there. But even if he does, as you've been saying, in Zubimendi you've got a player with a wide skill set.
But I find that really interesting from a coaching perspective as well, because great coaches have not quite been able to unlock what Ryan Gravenberch has to offer. Arne Slot has come in. I'm saying Arne Slot isn't a great coach, but he's not, you know, in terms of what he's achieved in the game, he's not on the level of, say, Klopp. But he's been able to bring that out of him. Obviously, it's got to come from the player, but I'm interested in the coaching perspective.
Well, that happens.
As well.
I mean, he's getting individual. He's coaching them individually. He's obviously looking at the footage of the games, seeing what he does well, seeing what he can improve on. It's really key that you play in that 6 role, you're checking your shoulder and you're getting turned on your back foot. I think he does that instantly anyway. You need to be responsible when you're doing it in there. He's getting more and more confidence with the games he's playing. The manager's saying, no, you're my man in there. And you've got McAllister, who's a very good, intelligent footballer next to him. Szoboszlai, who wants to break it up and charge forward, opens up space. And when he sees the space, he's giving him that encouragement to say, do you know what? Burst into that area. You're not restricted to the 6. If you're correct to leave and vacate that area, someone is sitting there for you. It's a rotation, which he's picking up really well. I think he's obviously a very intelligent footballer, and the manager likes him, which means he wants to listen to the manager. I will listen to the manager if he's going to pick me. I'm at one of the biggest clubs I'm ever going to be at. There's an opportunity of building something and challenging in the Premier League. Why wouldn't I listen to this man? And I think that's what you're getting at the moment.
And you have to look as well, Kels, the timing of him being there, and where he finds himself with Arne Slot coming in, who wants to play a different kind of game than maybe Jurgen was playing. And he is now matured. He's been at big clubs. he's matured and he's in a position where he's playing where he looks physically completely ready. Technically, he's obviously ready. So it's just sometimes it's just the timing's right at that moment. And then, like Zubimendi, you know, he's meant to come and he hasn't come. Maybe that's another sign for him to maybe think, you know what, let me really kick on now. And so, like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing him later on in the season playing against some of the bigger guys to see if he can still perform like that. Because if he does, then it's really great news for Liverpool.
Yeah, there are, as you say, tougher tests still to come. We saw a little bit of what they were capable of against AC Milan in the Champions League in midweek. So that's maybe a bit more of an idea of what they can do against bigger sides, and they won that one relatively comfortably in the end, despite an early scare. But does it solve, in a way, or does it knock on to what Slot wants to do with Trent Alexander-Arnold, who has yet again been quite open about the fact that he's not necessarily committing his long-term future to Liverpool, because he used him in that Forest game in which nobody at Liverpool played well in that defeat by Forest, but he used him in midfield, bringing Conor Bradley on at right back. Does it give us an insight into what might happen with Trent?
Yes and no. Yes, in so much as obviously they're taking a longer-term view. Well, Slot is certainly in terms of the recruitment and the way that he's going about his business. No, in so much as Trent's a superb player, and we know that he does have that versatility about his game. We also know Real Madrid are looking at him, and the whole contract situation in relation to him benefits him, because he then can look at what Slot does, how good he is, whether or not he is in line to compete for the title, compete for the Champions League or not. Even if they were to go on and win those things, then you could turn around and say, well, what else is there for me to do as a young player heading into my mid-20s? Is there another challenge at a club like Real Madrid? So it's a win-win for him. In terms of Liverpool, they could end up losing a really good player.
But when you look at what he's won at Liverpool, he could probably say that now. I think. Yeah. When what Trent's doing now, he's got to be careful, because we saw what happened with Stevie. When they love you as much as they love an homegrown Liverpool player, and it starts getting into this stage of their contract, it's very tough for them. I think that Trent now is in mid-contract. He's probably in mid-contract negotiations, Kells. And he has to look at all the options, what he's got around him. But we could never get into this vicinity of what he's going through as a Liverpudlian at Liverpool, with everything going on around you. He's won the Champions League, he's won the Premier League. He's one of the great Liverpool players. He'll probably go down as one of them.
Well, do you know, I interviewed him last year. One of the things he said was he started the After Academy for players in his area who didn't make it, who didn't go into football. And that investment back into where he's come from, his local community, shows exactly what you're saying. That's what it means to him.
That's what it means, yeah.
I don't want to test anybody's memory too much, but what were you doing on this day 33 years ago? Do you know?
No.
Not go back in your diary that far?
No.
Look,
did I do something?
You were signing for Arsenal.
The 25. Yes,
yeah, I mean,
it's the 23rd.
You don't look thrilled about it. I'll be honest.
No, because what happens, Kels, is that he's upset that I didn't have a suit on.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, he's upset that I came with a jacket and just a baseball cap, and he wasn't happy. So
Yeah, you've always been a man of fashion.
Well,
he's old-fashioned, George.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It was just a symbol of my individuality, and I couldn't lose it.
How did you get on at Arsenal? Did
it
you all
went
right?
okay,
Did it go okay?
It went okay. A couple of weeks after that.
Tim and Darren, thank you very much for coming in to chat to us. Another big week of Premier League action coming up for us next weekend, and we'll be here to reflect on all of it. Same time next Monday.
Right, time now for Back Pages tonight here on Sky Sports News, bringing you a first look at the sports stories in the morning's newspapers. And joining us tonight are ESPN's Mark Ogden and Charlie Wyatt from The Sun. Welcome to you both. Let's quickly run through the Back Pages. So this is the Eye. Pep insists that Mikel Arteta must explain himself after those comments he made following the explosive draw last week. It's a theme that runs across all of the papers. Guardiola furious at Arteta claims after title clash. That's The Guardian, and they also focus on England's Master Blasters crushing Australia. The Express focus on Pep too. We will give you a war. That relates to Pep, responding to comments that Gabriel made after the draw last week. Star have been quite creative. They're calling Pep a mank of war. It almost works, that headline. And Dex Cop, that's Anthony Gordon, closing in on a new contract at Newcastle. And an interesting one on the front of the Telegraph supplement. Graham Potter, haven't heard from him for 17 months since he was sacked by Chelsea. Breaks his silence. So we'll get into that. Where might he return as a manager? And they also focus on the Guardiola spat with Mikel Arteta. And this is the last one in the Times. Pep demands, Arteta answers. And you can see Matty Potts celebrating England's win against Australia, all to play for as they head for the decider on Sunday. OK, so loads to get through. Before we get to our guests, let's hear the Pep Guardiola comments that have sparked many of those back page headlines.
Well, next time Mikel has to be more clear.
May I ask you then, you're not aware of him saying that at all?
No, next time has to be more clear exactly what does it mean. What he said, he was here for years, and we know exactly what happened here. So because it can be related in all the process now with 155 charges, maybe it's about that. He knows the information about that, maybe, or maybe had something like, I don't know, because really next time I have to see more clear
well,
exactly
this is kind
what
of
happened.
the point. I think he said it in this way on purpose. I think he left it hanging to sort of cause people to think, oh, what does he mean, and maybe cause you
Okay, next time, like a good relation I have with him, hopefully this question has been asked. I can answer exactly what does it mean when I said he was here, and I know what's happening here, and there's still to be clouds there, to be more precise. And that's no, because we spoke with text after the game, and that's all.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it, this? And it's going to be our hot topic for the next few minutes, gents. The Guardian and the questions asked to Pep there were from The Guardian's Jamie Jackson. Mikel has to be more clear. And they relate to the comments that Mikel Arteta made after that draw last week, where it was put to him that they played negative tactics. They used dark arts to squeeze that almost win, but draw out of that game. And he said, I've been there at Manchester City. I was there 4 years. I have all the information, so I know. Believe me. He was cryptic at the time. It feels like the heat has been turned up on this rivalry in the last week, Mark.
Yeah, it does. And I'm kind of all for it. It makes it much more interesting. So no complaints about that. But I think, obviously Mikel Arteta was there for a long time at City. And in terms of the so-called dark arts, there have been accusations of kind of tactical fouls of City players. They'll be fouled for a free kick, and then all of a sudden they'll pull back the opposition player to stop them taking a free kick. So there have been those accusations which they denied. But, clearly what Mikel Arteta has said has got under Pep's skin. But I do think that Mikel Arteta's got to be a little bit careful, because you're going up against the best team in the country, probably the best team in the world. Pep Guardiola's been there and done it. The players have been there and done it, and Arsenal haven't. So if Mikel Arteta's not careful, he might be kind of accused of talking too much and not actually getting enough done. So it's interesting. It's clearly something that obviously Arsenal are employing, because I think people have pointed out that David Raya spent a lot of time on the ground in recent games, more than any other goalkeeper. Arsenal were, they were time wasting towards the end of the game last week, but in their defence, they were down to 10 men. They were trying to kill the game. They were doing everything they could to get a result. So the accusations that they were playing a negative way, well, if you're down to 10 men at Man City, you can't really go out and play counter-attacking football and try and win the game. So you kind of have to say, look, there was mitigation for it. But ultimately, what he's saying about Pep's tactics, he's left it hanging, and Pep probably thinks, well, what you've said, because you work for the club a little bit, might just kind of get people to think that there's more going on than there actually is.
Charlie, if we look at the Eye, there's a line in their copy that takes it a little bit further. It says that Pep Guardiola is privately furious with Mikel Arteta here. Now, Arteta has said he's always stressed that football won't impact their friendship. That feels like wishful thinking right now, doesn't it?
Well, look, they've got a very strong friendship. We know that, and it would take something to break that. But yeah, I can understand why Guardiola is angry privately. He's tried to play it cool a bit, as he often does in his press conference, hasn't he? But yeah, I think those remarks have got under his skin, and understandably, it was all very vague from Arteta. He knew what he was saying. Yeah, he's one of those managers that he might get angry, but I don't think he comes out with stuff that he's not planned to say. A bit like Jose Mourinho, really, when he had his outbursts, he always knew what he was saying. So Arteta sort of put it out there. And I think, as Mark said, I think it's probably related to Manchester City's tactical fouling over the last few years, and they have done that. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And I think that's that, rather than Guardiola mentioning that maybe Arteta was talking about the charges against the club at the moment. But equally, I do have sympathy, because Arsenal have had a lot of criticism for the way they ended the game. But again, as Mark said, what do you expect them to do? They have 10 men against one of the best sides in Europe ever. Of course, they were going to do everything they could to grind out victory, even though it was a bit annoying, even though there was play acting going on. That's the way the game is played sometimes. So I think I have some sympathy for Arteta, but let's hope there is a bit of a spark between these two. It'd be great to see a spicy rivalry, a bit like Man United and Arsenal. I don't think we're probably going to get it quite that extreme, but I think it's certainly entertaining if they're not all totally pally.
Yeah, we don't want them to be too pally, do we? In the Express, we'll give you a war. This is Pep Guardiola responding to Gabriel, describing this rivalry as a war last week. Is he rattled here, Mark? Pep Guardiola, is he rattled by Arsenal?
I don't think he is. With all due respect to Arsenal, I don't think City are as worried about Arsenal as Arsenal would like to think City are. I think if you ask City, they'd be more worried about Liverpool right now. I think Liverpool have got more pedigree, I guess, in recent years in terms of title race. So the sense that I get from City is that they're not particularly worried about Arsenal. They respect Arsenal, but it's not a team that's keeping them awake at night. But I do think they find them... I think Arsenal's behaving the last couple of weeks, and maybe it's been kind of designed by Arteta. They've acted like the underdogs. They're kind of the underdogs that are trying to get under the favourite skin. It's almost like a boxing weigh-in, isn't it, where the underdog is trying to kind of provoke the favourite. And I think City are the favourites, and Arsenal are trying to do what underdogs do, trying to rattle the opposition. And it can only go two ways. That it can either be successful or it can blow up in their face. And I don't think City are rattled, and I think that Pep's more rattled by the injury to Rodri. I think obviously he's missing Rodri for the season. Kevin De Bruyne is still injured. I think he's more concerned about the injuries they've got at the moment. But look, it's funny the situation with Arteta and Pep, because you remember that Pep and Jose Mourinho were quite close when they were at Barcelona together, under Bobby Robson, and that became one of the most fractious relationships in history when they became managers. So perhaps Mikel Arteta is the new Jose Mourinho, and he's going to go a different way to Pep and really get under his skin. But I don't see it at the moment. But I think for that to happen, Arsenal need to win something. They need to win the league.
Yeah. Mank of War is the Daily Star's headline. I quite like this one, Charlie. The one thing I'm curious about is that Pep Guardiola in his press conference today, when he was saying, I need to know what Arteta's getting at, he needs to be more clear, Guardiola then said maybe he's talking about the 115 charges. Why would he bring that into it when Arteta hasn't specifically mentioned that?
Well, it just shows you where Manchester City are at the moment, and it is hanging over everyone at the club, isn't it? It's a real concern over potential punishment. So, and I think that because it was ambiguous, Guardiola's put it out there. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting how this one rumbles along, as I'm sure it will. But equally, Arsenal, I think they're getting under City's skin a little bit. I think Arsenal have a really good chance of winning the title this year. I think Rodri is a huge blow for City. I mean, it's pretty obvious, isn't it? And it's interesting that Guardiola, when asked about it at the press conference today, did mention the fact that they'd have to take a look at the situation and maybe make a move in January for another player, even though he's got some options at the moment. He wasn't totally convincing, was he? So, it's a big concern for City. And I think the next few games will be crucial. And I think Arsenal know that this season, if they're ever going to do the title and they are going to, finally end that barren run, I think it has to be this year.
Yeah. Speaking of transfer moves in the window, one that nearly happened or appeared to be close at one point was Anthony Gordon from Newcastle to Liverpool. There was a strong link anyway, but the Express at the top of their back page are focusing on a bumper new deal at the Toon until 2030, Mark. What do you make of that? I mean, it's a 6-year deal for a hot talent, but he hasn't quite found the form of last season.
Yeah, he started well. Obviously, Newcastle see him as a young player that's got a real future, and obviously Newcastle's ambitions are clear. They want to win things, and Anthony Gordon broke into the England squad last season, was unlucky to play just a couple of minutes at the Euro. So, he's a big talent. I think Eddie Howe really rates him. The Liverpool situation in the summer was interesting because Liverpool were keen, but Newcastle wanted Gerard Quanta as part of the deal, and Liverpool weren't prepared to do that. So it didn't quite happen. But there was a live interest there, and obviously Liverpool ended up signing Chiesa towards the end of the window. So Newcastle really want to keep him, and I think a 6-year deal is a real sign of their commitment. I think Anthony Gordon as well will know that he's in a good place at Newcastle. So yes, he needs to get his form back a little bit, but both sides seem to be happy with each other. I think that deal will get done.
Yeah, Eddie Howe spoke openly about we want Anthony Gordon to sign this new contract. Do you think he had his head turned a little bit, Charlie, by the suggestions that there might be a transfer in the offing?
He definitely had his head turned because he knew that there was an interest there. It wasn't just speculation; it was a genuine interest from Liverpool. There his boyhood club. It was his dream, or has been his dream, to play for Liverpool. But I think he'll stay at Newcastle and sign that contract now, and that's huge for Eddie Howe. It really is, and to get him and Isak tied down, because they're two key players, both great recruitment, by the way, by Newcastle to bring those two players in. And Gordon's not having the greatest seasons, but it's only a few games. He's having a bit of a dip in form. He's a young player, that happens. And I think maybe the interest in him in Liverpool during the Euros didn't come at a great time for Gareth Southgate either, because he didn't play a lot, did he? But I'm sure within the next few weeks he'll be back at top form, and let's hope he's an even better player than what we saw for much of last season.
There's another story concerning Newcastle on the inside pages of The Telegraph, written by Luke Edwards, and it's concerning Darren Eales, the chief executive, to step down at Newcastle after a cancer diagnosis, a chronic form of blood cancer. Obviously, everybody here at Sky Sports News, I'm sure you'll share with it, wish him well in his recovery. But for Newcastle fans and as a club, how concerning will it be that this could further destabilise them at board level?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's obviously Newcastle have said that the number one priority is Eales' health, and the fact that he has to step down, that's what comes first, his health and his family. But I suppose if you look at the football side of it, then yes, there's been a lot of upheaval at Newcastle in the last 6 months. Dan Ashworth left, Amanda Staveley's left, and there's a lot of uncertainty over Eddie Howe at the moment. It seems to have subsided, but with Paul Mitchell coming in as sporting director of football, then obviously Darren Eales stepping down would be another element of upheaval. But you can't really, account for somebody being ill. I think this is one of those situations that you just have to, let him get away and get himself well, and then Newcastle have to find a replacement. But yeah, it's been a turbulent few months at Newcastle. But like I say, some things you can't really prepare for.
You're watching Back Pages tonight, and welcome back to ESPN's Mark Ogden and Charlie Wyatt from The Sun. Before the break, we said we'd pick up with the inside pages of the Telegraph Sports Supplement. Jamie Carragher has written a piece, Flat Track Bullies Spurs, too easy to play against. They look really good in the Europa League this week. They beat Qarabag with only 10 men, 3-0, but they did fold in the Premier League against Newcastle and against Arsenal. Does he have a point here, Jamie Carragher? Under Ange Postecoglou, they're easy on the eye, but ultimately they don't get the job done against the biggest teams, Charlie.
Yeah, I mean, it does, and I think all Spurs fans would agree, to be honest. I think some of them are losing faith in the manager because they haven't seen improvement. They've spent a fair amount in the transfer market as well, and it's something Tottenham have got to improve on. And I think Sunday's game is a key game, and it is going to be a fascinating one because potentially it's a good time to play Manchester United. United will probably be thinking the other way round as well, and this is a decent chance to get 3 points, which they need. But yeah, Tottenham, Spurs fans, frustrated with the style of play of the previous few managers, and obviously Antonio Conte. So they wanted a more progressive style of play. They've got that, but of course, with that has come some pretty obvious issues. And I think it's fair to say Tottenham are they're not going to finish in the top 4, are they? So their best chance is a cup, and there's no reason why they can't do that. They could do well in the Europa League. Decent win. I know it's only against Qarabag, but at that level, to win so comfortably, playing the match, most of the match of 10 men, was pretty extraordinary, really. So yeah, Postecoglou is under pressure. he knows that, and it's a huge game at Old Trafford Sunday.
Yeah, you can have a nice conversation about pressure with Erik ten Hag after the game. So Tottenham are 10th, United are 11th. Both got 7 points from 5 games. Who would a loss be more damaging for come Sunday, Mark?
I think Erik ten Hag. United are at home. They are a bigger club with more expectancy on United than Tottenham. So obviously Tottenham are underperforming big time, but I don't think they're under the same sort of pressure that United are. So obviously Erik ten Hag's had a tough start to the season, 2 successive draws now, pretty unconvincing draws. So if they lose at home to Tottenham at the weekend, then I wouldn't say it's curtains for ten Hag, but you're getting to that point now where the last game before the international break next week is Aston Villa away. That's a really tough game. So he needs to get a win. And I think United needs to get a performance, he needs to score some goals. So the pressure is clearly on ten Hag to deliver. And I think, again, like Charlie was saying, some of the Tottenham fans are beginning to lose patience with Postecoglou. I was at the game against Twente on Wednesday, FC Twente, and you got the impression from the crowd that there is a little bit of faith beginning to run out of ten Hag. I think a lot of fans want him to succeed. I don't think they don't find him unpopular, but they're looking at the games thinking, as much as they want it to work, it's not working. His tactics aren't working, his substitutions aren't working, some of his signings don't seem to be working. Some of his comments in press conferences are quite hard to understand at times in terms of what is he trying to say. And what he does say is kind of critical of his players, his team. So nothing seems to be working right now. So if they lose again at the weekend, the pressure is definitely on ten Hag.
Which brings us very neatly to the front page of the Daily Telegraph Sports Supplement, which is Graham Potter back after a 17-month absence since he lost his job at Chelsea, saying Chelsea was the perfect storm, but I'm ready to return. Is he timing his return thinking that someone's going to get sacked in the next few weeks, Charlie?
Yeah, we're approaching sacking season, aren't we? So, good interview from him. We've certainly not heard much from him, have we, really, the last 17 months? And he's obviously taken the break, and he's sort of referring the fact that Eddie Howe did exactly the same thing when he left Bournemouth to recharge his batteries. And clearly, Potter now is ready to take a job now. He sort of, in the interview, speaks about he's turned down quite a few approaches from teams in the Premier League, teams in Europe, some national associations as well. So I still think, despite what happened at Chelsea, which he speaks about as well, and he described it as a perfect storm in terms of the events which led to his dismissal, I think he'll have a fair few clubs to pick from. Obviously, he's been a candidate for England as well, and he is on that list. But I still think at the moment that job is Lee Carsley's to lose. But yeah, I think we'll see Graham Potter, well, probably in the next few weeks, rather than the new year. And I think he's a good manager. I think it didn't work out at Chelsea. It wasn't all his fault, was it? Some of the ludicrous things happening behind the scenes and the amount of players that were bought. And again, in the interview today, he speaks about players having to sit on the floor in team meetings because there weren't enough seats to go round. But he's got a point to prove, and I'm sure he'll do that.
Yeah, point to prove for Graham Potter. He makes the point, as Charlie said, Mark. Eddie Howe got relegated with Bournemouth. Unai Emery was bombed out of Arsenal. And you look at how those two are doing now, that can be almost the method that he would go back into management. What level does Graham Potter resurface, do you think?
Well, I think the reason why he's been out of work for 17 months is because he's probably targeting a level that he's not going to get. I think we have to be honest in the sense that he's not going to get a top 6 club. He's failed at Chelsea, no matter whether it was his fault or not, he failed at a big club. So a similarly big club, he's not going to take a risk on Graham Potter, I don't think, with a failure on his CV. He's going to have to drop down a level. Now, Leicester have been interested over the years since he left Chelsea, Ajax as well. They would have been good clubs, I think, to kind of rehabilitate his reputation and build himself back up again. But he didn't take those jobs. I think we have to be honest. If the Everton job became available, I think that is more Graham Potter's level right now than a Manchester United or a Tottenham. But he did well at Brighton. He did well prior to that. But I think it makes the point with Eddie Howe, Unai Emery. They have bounced back from higher levels. That Eddie Howe was very successful at Bournemouth, getting successive promotions. Unai Emery was a multiple Europa League winner with different clubs. So they have a higher level to bounce back to than Graham Potter. So I think we're looking at bottom half of the Premier League at best, really.
Let's go from Graham Potter to Matty Potts. Took 4 wickets for England as they absolutely trounced Australia to level the series. Bowled them out for just 126. And Jofra Archer is back bowling at high pace, Charlie. It's a really exciting England team, this. And actually, a really exciting culmination to this series.
Yeah, and Liam Livingston, 62 not out of 27 balls, and 28 in the final over, extraordinary. And it's just such a shame that it's finally poised for Sunday, and I don't think the weather forecast is too cracking, is it, for Bristol? And that's a shame, because it would be a great day to see, but I'm not sure we're going to be getting much cricket.
And Charlie, I know you were pointing out to us earlier the Wimbledon story. They've been granted permission to expand over on land that locals don't want them to build on. Yeah, this has been a massively contentious issue. It's been rumbling for about 3 years, but the Mayor's office today has confirmed that Wimbledon can build 39 courts, including an 8,000-seater on the old Wimbledon Park Golf Club. That's going to help them have all the qualifying. It means they don't have to use Roehampton anymore, because I think Wimbledon's fallen behind the other Grand Slams with facilities. So this is a really, really important day for Wimbledon and the All England club. Although certainly
I understand
seems so. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Mark. We will leave it there. If you've missed any of the show, there is another chance to see Back Pages tonight at hour. And the show is also available as a podcast. Just download Back Pages on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.